Alright, Portland, we need you to focus. This video is about you. Just you. It's not your sister's video, so please try to avoid talking about her too much, okay? That's your only job today. And when you're done, you can go back to it, alright? Okay. Alright, so let's try this out. 3, 2, 1, action.
はじめまして。私はインディアナ
Cut. God dang it. Can't even get that part right. Fine. You know what? I'll do the intro bits here. Just stand there and pose for the camera. This will be over soon. Alright, so today we're covering everyone's well-known syscon from the Eagle Union, USS Portland. Now the Eagle Union has many powerful cruisers within their arsenal. The question for us is whether or not Portland is within that group as one of its few rare cruisers. Or is the only reason she's known is because of her, love for her sister. Anyway, let's find out. With her survival side, Portland boasts a rather decent health pool given her rarity. Now, glorious German engineering memes aside, she does beat several cruisers in health, even surpassing several Eagle Elite ships as well as some SRs. She does have medium armor, so while she may be able to handle some hits, she'll definitely still get hurt pretty badly from battleship AP guns, so be careful when you're going up against those particular types of foes. Her evasion is about average for heavy cruisers, so expect her to be just as likely to get hit as her counterparts. Now, as for anti-air on the other hand, she's a little bit better than those of her rarity, so she'll definitely be able to handle anti-plane combat a lot better than them, both in dealing more damage to planes and also taking less particular damage from them. Overall, she seems to be having a more survival-focused role based on her higher survival stats. In terms of offense, her firepower is lower than her rare Eagle counterparts, so she may not be able to deal as much damage as other characters. Now, she is a gunboat, so that means that she has no torpedo capability whatsoever. However, she does trade this in for an extra main gun mount on her second limit break. Lastly, her reload is a slight bit better than her counterparts, but the difference is minimal at best, and honestly, it's not going to make a big enough impact. So from here, let's go ahead and look at her equipment a little bit. Now, we did mention that she is a gunboat, which means that instead of having torpedo equipment, Portland is equipped with a secondary gun alongside her main gun. Now, her main gun efficiency is set at around 110% efficiency, which is towards the lower end of the spectrum for that gun slot, so she may be a little bit lacking in damage from that particular type of gun. As for her secondary gun, it sits at a 60% efficiency, which seemingly is about average for the slot. So this means that overall her surface damage is going to be a little less than average, especially when you combine that with her slightly lower firepower than most of her colleagues. Now, as for her anti-air guns, she has a middle to upper end efficiency at 130%. This combined with her AA stat means she'll do pretty good at making sure planes are getting shot down for sure. Now, one of the more interesting things when you look at this overall, by combining her equipment with her stat line, you can kind of see that she feels a bit like a Prinz Eugen, opting for survival over damage output. Now, this can definitely be handy when it's needed, but in a lot of cases, it's really not. Remember, it's generally better to out-damage something than it is to out-tank something. However, before we continue, it's best to see if her skills make or break her character. So, starting off with her red skill, Best Sister, which increases her firepower, anti-air, and reload by up to 15%. Now, there is a requirement for this skill, and it is that you have to have USS Indianapolis, or, you know.
かわいいインディ
Portland, please. Now's still not the time. Can you please not? Anyway, upon bringing her into a sortie with Portland, you will get the skills perks. While the overall boosts are nice to help her catch up on her surface damage, you do have to bring Indianapolis along. Running two heavy cruisers can be pretty rough, as both would slow down your Vanguard's speed quite a bit, unless you have a beaver badge, boilers, or both to offset it. Nonetheless, the other issue comes from Indianapolis herself. Now, at the time of this video's release, I don't really have a video on her, but I do plan to cover her soon. So for the sake of things around this video's release, let's simply say that she's got a decent stat line, but that's really about it. Indianapolis' skills don't help too much either, as they're more defensive focused. This causes her to be hit by the classic meta argument of there's plenty of ships that can do her job better. Most people do see tagging her along as a bit of a drawback, as they could easily replace her with another cruiser, and that could easily make up for her skills perks. So it's kind of sad that it's not much of a bargaining bit for Portland in this case. Now her second skill is Defense Order, which can reduce damage for all ships by up to 15% for 8 seconds. Now the skill's drawback is that it has a 25% chance to occur every 20 seconds, and it does not stack alongside itself. The damage reduction is always a welcomed thing, but much like Cleveland's skill, it comes with a low proc chance that won't make it easy to get. So while it's a nice skill, it's best to assume you won't get it often, and just enjoy it when you do. Overall, her skills and stat line are not really that impressive, and in all honesty, it kind of makes her fall for the exact same argument that we made earlier with her sister Indianapolis. When we look at Portland's stats at level 120, we can see that she does get some considerable bumps to firepower and health. This will help her get more damage out, but it honestly still does not save her from that very argument we mentioned earlier. However, Portland does have one last saving throw, so to speak, and that is in her Retrofit. Portland's Retrofit adjusts a lot of her overall stat line and has a very positive impact on her. All of her gun slots get a small bump of 5% efficiency, and she gets a decent jump to her firepower as well. Her health, evasion, and anti-air values also receive a decent amount of upgrades as well. Honestly, thanks to this Retrofit, her stat line has drastically improved, to the point where she actually does significantly better in combat and can somewhat keep up with a handful of really good cruisers. She will still not be ultimately better than those handful of ships damage-wise, but at least this doesn't mean that she's the victim to that meta argument as much anymore. I will say as kind of an off comment here that I did find it kind of odd that she did not get a Retrofit skill, but I guess that could just be part of the design of the overall Retrofit anyway. Now something interesting to point out is that she goes from being somewhat comparable to Prince Eugen and her focus on survival to a more Admiral Hipper approach, where she tries to find a nice middle ground of survival and damage output, and not being flat about it. Sorry, I had to. Please don't hit me with that. I still have to finish this video. I'm sorry. Oh, God. Anyway, it's this balance that actually works in her favor a bit. Enough that I actually consider her to be one of the best cruisers we have alongside a few that you may recognize. While she may not have the sheer damage output that some of the cruisers here do have, her health pool and evasion allow her to be a really solid tank without sacrificing damage too much. She has a decent anti-air capability as well, so it can definitely help in tougher stages. Though, you know, don't be afraid to bring a Sandy or two. You may never know if you end up needing them, right? Alright, overall, Portland can be a pretty solid cruiser to work with. However, I would say that her Retrofit is kinda critical to acquire as soon as you unlock her, as that would help out tremendously for her. She'll be a very solid tank to work with in missions where if you find that you do need a decent damage dealing cruiser to fit that need. Just be careful when fighting any battleships that have AP attacks, as that extra health won't help as much as you expect. Now, finally, the last question for us would be, which should be best as a mob or a boss fleet Vanguard? Well, honestly, she could work at both of them. It really just depends on who you need more, or where you need her more. Okay, it also depends on the rest of your fleet's members, so, like, for example, if you're running a healer, it may not be necessary to have her, since a more damage-focused cruiser should be fine with a healer around to help her. Now, her tankiness and damage reduction skill can help out a lot in boss fleets, as it's just gonna give better survivability. Just remember that battleship AP will hurt her pretty badly, so pay attention to who you are fighting, especially in the boss fleet side of things. Outside of that, she has no major fleet comp requirements, save for her need for Indy.
大好きなインディちゃん。
Yeah.
お姉ちゃんすごいでしょ。
Yeah. For her red skill. Yeah. Anyway. So if you find you need a tank, she'll always be ready to help out and talk about her
インディちゃんの薄い方
I'm trying to do a video. Can you wait? Just a
しか邪魔
few
しないで
seconds
くれ
longer.
る
Anyway, that's gonna be all for Portland's video. Hope you enjoyed it and that it will help you in your future endeavors. Up next on the roster is going to be Unicorn, so look forward to her video when it comes out. Whether you're a regular viewer or a patron supporting the channel on Patreon, thanks for watching and have a fantastic day. Hope to see you all again real soon.